A man who knows himself and is connected to himself, he does things to take care of himself emotionally, spiritually, physically. The relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship you have in your entire life because you are loving yourself, getting your worth from yourself instead of trying to fill it up with other people, things, money, jobs, alcohol, etc. So when somebody just walks in with that type of energy and is responsible for their own self-worth, their self-happiness, their joy, their energy and how they show up in their life, it's super attractive for every woman.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the TPM Show. We are once again blessed to have my beautiful wife with us to provide us with a woman's point of view. Babe, thanks for being here.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk about this topic and get your take on it. So many guys ask about this, but they ask about it in a different way. So I'm going to ask you several questions as we go through and just kind of give me what comes up for you first. And also, when you think about your girlfriends or the women that you coach, what kind of comes up for them? When you think about a powerful man, what comes to mind?
It's just his energy. Like you can just feel if he's grounded, like and confident within himself. It's just a resonance. It's a feeling. It's a frequency. It's like everything's energy. So it's just like from a really simple perspective, like somebody we always say like that is very, very rich isn't like boisterous and showing it around, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like calm and confident and like knows their worth and knows his worth and can carry himself well. And when he walks in the room, it's like there's an energy about him that is like, he's got it. Like something about him. Like people are gravitated towards him. But it's also like, yeah, it's just like this calm confidence. It's not showboaty.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we defined it as like grounded energy, right?
Yeah.
It's like he feels grounded. He knows who he is. He's confident in who he is. And do most women, do you think, find that attractive?
Exceptionally.
Exceptionally attractive. Okay. And it's not about looks. Is that correct?
No, it's energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So when we think about this, let's look at the opposite. When a man comes to his woman, who is woman or around women, who is needy, what does that feeling get?
But he's needy.
He is needy, yeah.
So he's not feeling great about himself. And it's just like kind of like that take energy.
Yeah. So when a man's constantly asking his wife, like, hey, is everything okay? Are you all right? Do you need anything?
Yeah.
Why aren't you hanging out with me? Like that kind of energy is what I'm picturing.
Not attractive. It's just kind of like think about the type of people like you want to be around or invest your time with or your precious energy with, never mind your body with, right? It's like doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to these women that you coach and yourself as well, of course, when you think about a man raising his stock, I always use that analogy, like raising his level, if you will. So I'm picturing a man, we'll just call him Frank, and sorry, Frank, but Frank's sitting there and let's say he's playing at a level 10 and he wants to go up to a level 15. Again, totally arbitrary numbers. The numbers don't matter, but he wants to raise his bar in the sexual market value, right? What are a couple things that he could do in a woman's point of view that a woman finds sexy and attractive?
Yeah. What women find attractive is a man, like it sounds cliche, but it's said over and over again, but like a man who knows himself and is connected to himself, knows his worth. He sources his own worth from inside of himself, not from the external world. Doesn't mean he can't quote unquote be successful, but that isn't where he gains his like sense of like, I'm worthy because I have this fancy car. Because you can feel that type of person where there's just a void trying to get filled. He does things to take care of himself emotionally, spiritually, physically, again, from the place of like, I am like the most important thing that I can invest in my life so that I can invest in the people that I love in my life and show up as the best partner, the best in bed, the best dad, the best businessman, the best whatever, son. So it's like taking himself seriously enough to invest in himself, but also like there's like this little part of it, like take yourself seriously, but so you don't have to take yourself so seriously. Does that make sense? Like,
I know what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
but let's describe it a little bit more. And I also think the guys can get confused here because as men, it's easy for us to hear what you're saying is all doing. Okay, I have to do more. I have to do more to be a better dad. I have to do more to get a better body. I have to do more to be more confident. I have to do more to, and that's not, I know what you're trying to get at, and that's not what you're saying, right?
Right. So it's like when you, like we take about like with a powerful man, I know the men that would listen to this podcast or have been through the program or in the program on the edge. It's like, it is really valuing the relationship you have with yourself. The relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship you have in your entire life. So when you are really connected and working on that and being like placing high value on the relationship you have with yourself, you're going to have deeper relationships with the people in your life because you are loving yourself, getting your worth from yourself instead of trying to fill it up with other people, things, money, jobs, alcohol, etc. So when somebody just walks in with that type of energy and is like, is responsible for their own self, their own self-worth, their self-happiness, their joy, their energy and how they show up in their life, it's super attractive for every woman.
Sure, absolutely. And again, what I want the guys to understand, what we talked about, it's a state of being,
Yes.
rather than a state of doing.
Yes.
And so a lot of us guys, myself included, we can get caught up in the, okay, to get to the next level, if you will, I got to do more. I was having a conversation with a guy we call Silverback just yesterday. And he was talking about how, he hired a trainer and he's been working out most of his life. And his trainer said, you know what? You're an athlete and you're the hardest guys to work with because you'll try to do more when actually what I have to do is bring you back and you just have to actually settle into it. And he was telling me, he's like, Doug, I just dropped all this weight and et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And it was a state of being a little bit more than just the doing, if you will.
Yeah. The other thing that comes to mind is like the value of, we're just talking about men, but anybody's presence is like one of the things that we all crave the most. It's like such a dense nutrients to bring your full presence to whoever you're interacting with. And it's so common for us to not, and we all crave it, but we all just like kind of bypass like, oh, I know we're having this conversation, but they're like not really paying attention because their phone's out. But yeah, would you say, okay, yeah. And it really dings any sort of connection and for sure attraction. But if you are able to bring your full presence to your partner, your woman, like that is so attractive to make them like, wow, you are actually very interested in being with me right now. And it's like so like dense in nutrients because we're all starving for presence and it's like super sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could totally see that. And I think most couples, men and women, have lost that along the way, right? You have kids, you throw kids in the mix. Kids are, I want breakfast, I want cereal, I want snacks. They're constantly coming in at you, right? And then you throw in soccer practice, baseball practice, and everything else. It becomes hard. And at the end of the day, what's left for a lot of people?
Yep.
So it becomes easier and easier to turn to your phone, easier and easier to turn to whatever else you want to do to escape and just relax a little bit.
For sure. And it's like quote unquote easy, like have those habits. But if you like want the habit of like bringing more romance or sex back into a relationship, like those habits are not creating that. Like a habit of being like, wow, how can I work on being more present? Even if it's like my capacity right now is like, might be low, but like you can improve your capacity for your presence. And it's like one of the greatest skills I think anybody can master. I'll never forget, it was, God, years ago, you and I still lived in Santa Barbara. I was working with a coach back then and there was like all these people moving around and exercise. And he asked me a question and like, there were so many distractions. People were trying to get his attention. So I just like paused for a minute because I wasn't going to answer. And he just maintained his like eye contact with me. And he was just like, I'm here. And I was like, whoa. To feel like that level of presence, like he wanted to know my answer. He wanted to like be there with me. And it was loud and chaotic. And I answered and I felt so seen, so heard, so validated, so important. I was like, your presence is like the biggest gift you can give to people.
And so for guys listening to this, a lot of the guys, things aren't where they want to be in their marriages, right? They're struggling. It's a sexless marriage, a passionless marriage. maybe there was an affair, maybe there wasn't, all the fun things.
Yes.
So how does a guy go, okay, I'm going to start being more present? What are a couple things that he could do today to allow himself to be more present and have his wife take notice?
Well, she's probably really used to you being like not really there, right? So it's just like, even if you can just turn the dial like a few degrees just to start with, it doesn't have to be this like monumental thing. But I literally, like, I just say all the time, and I even say it to myself sometimes when I'm feeling like overwhelmed, distracted, and all the things you mentioned, all the moving parts of life that we all have. But I'm just like, be where your feet are. I literally just say that to myself in my head. I'm like, be where your feet are. So I can be present with my kid who's in front of me, Doug, a meeting I'm on, because there's always a ding, an email, a thing like this never going away. So it's just like, I know like the feeling, like I actually feel better when I'm where my feet are. I'm like, I'm actually in this conversation. So that's a tip that I know actually works for me. I remember, and like, just know, like, I've said this before on different podcasts, and I'll say it again, like your woman, because you are her provider and protector, is constantly attuned to you, even if you think she's not paying attention. So your energy is really, really, really important to her. And she can feel when it's off. Think about being, I'm going to come back to what things he can do, but just like, think about like if you go up to her and she's in a state of overwhelm, like just like stress, overwhelm, everything feels chaotic. Like it doesn't feel good, right? You're not like, ooh, let's hang out. You're like, oh, okay, let's back away. So like, think about like the energy you're bringing up to her. Are you like literally prepping yourself to be present with her? Like do what you got to do to like transition from work mode, go for a walk, all the things I know you teach these guys to transition.
Alpha decompression.
There you go. To show up as a partner, not as a stressed out, whatever, business owner or whatever. Doesn't mean that's not still there, but it's like you're wanting more connection, you're wanting more intimacy, like show up to her in a different energy of a way of like, hey, I'm here.
That's great advice. In fact, one of the guys that I work with one-on-one, one of the things I tweaked within his routines was his alpha decompression. And the things that guys get to realize here is he lived really close to home. And he was like, Doug, there's not much time, right? I was like, dude, you can circle the block if you need to, but you can set yourself up for success. So by the time you reach for that doorknob, you anchor it and you can come home with grounded energy. Now, his wife was complaining that he had too much needy energy.
Yeah.
And as soon as he walked in the door, her anxiety went through the roof because she knew like all of a sudden he was going to be watching her every move. He was going to be asking her all these questions and she just didn't have the bandwidth for it. And she needed him to be grounded.
Yes.
And when he turned, that was one of the many switches he turned. But when he turned that dial, so to speak, things really started to change in the home and she really started to take notice.
Yeah. It's all about energy. It sounds so like, what does that mean? But it's just like, just think about, like I just said, showing up overwhelmed or showing up like, hey, I'm present, I'm here. And like being calm and like accessible for a conversation or just like a genuine, like, hi, how you doing? Like, how was your day? Like genuine, right? Or like, depending on what level you're at in your marriage, walking up and, really making an important, like the first thing you do is come together and like hug and a kiss and just like see each other. Like it's really, everybody wants to be actually seen, especially by their partners.
Yeah. And it's easy to make the excuse, and I do it sometimes, of just being so busy. You got so many people pulling at you. A lot of these guys like me also, have a lot of things going on, right? And it's stopping, and I get to remember to do this better for sure. It's stopping and saying, how are you doing? Because I actually legitimately am curious. And sometimes I find myself, as an example, like you'll walk in the room, or Colton, who's filming this right now, and I want to know how Colton's trip was, or I want to know how your back is feeling or whatever. And you caught me in the moment of being in between things. And sometimes I miss it and I catch myself retrospectively. But I'm like, I want to know how your back is, and I'm sending this message really quickly. So I know the answer to this, but give me an example of a way a man can rectify that.
Well, I was just going to say that's a right there is what you just did. It's almost like a repair right there before anything goes wrong. And you do that with me is like, sometimes we just like, as women, we want our man's attention. We just do. It's
Sure.
part of the feminine. We want to be seen. We want the attention. We want to be noticed by you, in particular. So it's like when that is lacking, like
Yeah.
genuine attention is lacking because of, like you just said, we're all busy. I don't know anybody that's not busy these days. And the most important thing in our life is like our relationship with ourselves and our relationships in our home, right? So it's like you can just say that, like, hey, I just got home. I need to wrap up this one thing, but in 20 minutes, you and I are on the porch. Let's connect.
Okay.
Whatever.
Perfect. So what the guys get to understand, this is my learning, guys. I had to learn this, is you have to close the loop, right? And so what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is if I come in and Aaron's like, hey, can I tell you something? I'll go, no, or yes, but not right now. I'm in the middle of X, Y, and Z. But in 10 minutes, I'll come back to you. So what I used to do is, no, not right now. I'm really busy, and I could walk away. And that you taught me that left you kind of hanging of like, and this can be in arguments though too.
Yes.
Like, hey, I don't want to. I'm done with this conversation. I need to walk away because I'm too heated or whatever.
Yes.
You always want to come back so you can close the loop for your partner of like, we can talk about this in 20 minutes. We can talk about this on Sunday. We can talk so that they know that there is closure coming to that comment.
Yeah. And like, as far as like connecting where we were before, it's like that she's important to you.
But that's what I mean by closure. Yeah.
That you matter.
Absolutely. So great. So guys are gonna do this. I mean, obviously guys getting fitter, right? That increases your sexual market value. It's going to increase your attention from your wife, right? She's also going to notice that other women are noticing you too. That helps everybody. And then also when you think about growth, do you think most women, I mean, obviously you and I love personal and business growth, something both of us thrive on. Do you think of just the last 10 women that you've spoken to, just kind of run through your head if you could. Do you think they would find it sexy, incredibly sexy, if their man was working on himself and trying to grow himself?
Incredibly sexy. Every woman I talk to and know is either super thankful that their man is doing work, but most of them are starving for their man to work on themselves and clean up his side of the street and just.
Yeah. I had one of the local dads, ask me and a couple other dads, go, hey, have you guys ever thought about doing personal development? I'd almost like spit my drink out. Thought about it. That's what I do.
Most women are starving.
Yeah.
For their man to do something. And because she knows, here's the thing about women, we're deeply intuitive and we, for the most part, I'm just going to do a blanket statement. Like we can see our man's potential or people's potential before they're aware of it. And we can hold that vision for them. And like, we know like the best parts of you along as the worst parts of you and the things that you do that bring out the worst. But it's just like, there's so much more there for most people. And we're just talking about men in particular right now, that it gets to a point where women just like get so fed up. It's like, I can see you have so much more in there. And it's just like, it's really powerful to do something like the Powerful Man or coaching or whatever you choose to be in a group of men where you're supported. And it's like a really awesome environment to go through some personal development that will bring out the best in you, which will just make, it's a ripple effect. Everything in your life is better.
Well, yeah. And I see this all the time. And you know, as you know, I've been pulled aside once or twice by some of the wives asking about what we do and kind of how they can get their husband involved. Iron sharpens iron. And for me, certainly, you know, we've all heard this thing. I don't know if Jim Rome quoted it or who, but you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm a believer in that. And so if you're spending time with other men who are growing in business, growing as husbands, growing as fathers, growing as lovers, you naturally, even if you don't do anything, you naturally will get better. Yeah. Because you're around those people. Now, if you actually try to work on yourself, you'll get better exponentially quickly. And so, yeah. Okay, great. So we know women find it incredibly sexy for a man to be a powerful man, so be grounded, incredibly sexy to be present, sexy to work on his body, work on his health in general, and incredibly sexy to work on himself. What else?
Whew, those are the main things. But also, like I said before, take yourself serious enough to also not take yourself so serious. I think especially as we get further into adulthood and parenthood and businesshood and all the hoods, we all get so serious and we forget that, like, let's have some fun and enjoyment, and like make sure you're planning that into your life so that you have places to relax. Like, we all need to let our hair down and just let loose. Whether, I don't know how like people do that, but in a positive way, I'm talking about with your partner, like book the trip, go to the lake, do the thing. Like, all the business and all the things that we just talked about will always be there, but like make those memories. Assisting in making memories with your family and with your wife is incredibly sexy. Taking charge in some of that, not having to be responsible for all of that, but like being like, hey, I booked the family camping trip, or whatever you do. I booked the trip to Italy. I'm going to handle this part of the lake. I got it. Like, help being a memory maker is super sexy.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw a quote the other day, or a meme or whatever it was, but it said, instead of looking for someone to grow old with, look for someone to stay young with.
Yeah.
I thought that was that really kind of was like one of those things you see in the moment. I was like, oh, I love that. That idea of just play and fun.
Yeah.
And that's something you bring out in me a lot, because I could sit and work all day and be happy. You know, I enjoy what I do. And you're very good at bringing out the play side.
Yeah. Thank you. I love that side of you. It's like we all have a different access to different parts of us, but like also just like think about like, as a kid, like things that brought you joy. Like, I'm sure on some level that will still bring you joy. It might look a little different. You have a little money now and you're not going to maybe go play in a sandbox, but like going to the beach or whatever. Like,
or getting 3 other guys, convincing them, all guys in their 40s, to go play pickup basketball at night.
Yes, something like that. Seriously.
That was a blast. Yeah.
So fun. And then also like think about things like over your life, or you look back, you're like, wow, that was such a great time. Like, live your life. Like, do that now. Make book the trip.
You find someday on the calendar, right? When are you going to do it? Someday, later, and someday don't exist on any calendar. I'm with you 100%. There's no second shot at this game we call life, at least as far as I know, for sure. Maybe there is, but you might as well play out fully now.
But yeah, be a memory maker and take some responsibility in that.
I love that. So let's look at this, because some guys, it's helpful for them to look at the inverse. Okay. So the inverse of being present. So you said for women, and you said all women, being present is incredibly sexy.
So
Not
sexy.
just sexy, so sexy.
So sexy.
So sexy. What's the inverse of that then? So guys can recognize it.
Oh, just being completely distracted. And you can tell like overwhelm is one of the most unsexy ways of being. Say it nicely. It's just so it's like repelling. It's like, okay, think about somebody that's overwhelmed, stressed out, like, oh my God, I gotta do this, I can't do this. Oh, it's just It's just like, okay, like I'm gonna go over here and leave because that's doesn't feel good. I don't want to add to your stress. You are just exuding stress. That is the opposite of presence.
Yep. What would be the opposite of growth?
Oh boy, victimhood, blaming, staying stuck, doing the same thing over and over again, and looking outside of yourself, thinking it's her fault or your boss's fault or your business's fault. And it's like, well, you're the common denominator in your life. So
it's so funny you mentioned that, because we interviewed a guy for kind of an executive position within the movement. And throughout this interview, because he had all the qualifications for the position, but it was blaming his previous employer, blaming the situation. Then he started blaming his partner for something else. And as he was doing that, I'm like, this guy would be a horrible hire. He is so stuck in blaming other people rather than actually looking inside him to find the answers. So I'm just giving stuff that men can relate to as they're going through this and listening to your advice coming through here. So this is really helpful, because we think about one thing I think a lot of people get confused is when we say the powerful man, they think of this kind of Andrew Tate type guy who's, got the 4 buttons down his shirt and is beating his hand, beating his chest, if you will.
okay. I don't even know who that person is.
I know. Yeah. He's, most people probably won't know who he is on here, but he's a polarizing figure.
Got it.
In space. People can Google him, but he's one of those guys that 14-year-old boys follow him. I'm sure older people do too, but they're looking at him of what it is to be a man, so to speak. And I think a lot of guys get it confused when they hear the powerful man, that we're really talking about the power that comes from inside of you.
Yeah.
And that's what you were saying earlier is a man that's sexy is one who doesn't go external, buys a nice car because he wants a nice car, not because of what everybody else is going to think of him when he has a nice car.
Yeah.
Or the lake house or whatever else it is. Thinks it's going to make him happy.
Right.
He finds the happiness from within.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a source of his own worth and love and happiness and responsible for it.
Yep. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
What else can you tell these guys? What else, if a man that's listening to this right now, who obviously is investing in himself because he wouldn't be here with us right now, what are 3 things? I always like the number 3. 3 things that he can do to raise his self-worth.
Oh boy.
No, let me phrase that. Raise his worth in his eyes, but also in the eyes of his partner.
Right. Well, if you're on here, you're probably within the movement or thinking about it. So that's a really good place to start.
Joining the movement?
Yeah. Join a powerful man, because you'll be surrounded by a group of men doing the same thing. And we talked about who you surround yourself with really matters. The other thing is like, what do you guys call how you start your day? I call it the sacred start. What do you call it?
The alpha rise and shine.
Alpha rise and shine. But like how you start your day is like, think about if you go to bed in a bad mood and you kind of wake up in a bad mood and then you just like kind of spread that all over everybody, like super unattractive and nobody wants to be around that. So it's like, if you are taking control of your energy and yourself and like your intention for your day, it sounds cheesy, but if your intention for your day, like I even ask my kids on the way to school, like, what's your intention for the day? And just make it fun and light, but they're just learning like, oh, I'm choosing happiness and love. Like, you're going to set your day up of like with however that's meditation or journal or intention setting, just taking even 10 minutes to like add some intention to your day and who you are, who you're going to be, not necessarily what you're going to do. That can come later, but like who you're going to be for yourself first and foremost and for your people. Like bring intentional energy into your life.
Yep.
Instead of just random, not feel good energy and spread it all over everybody.
And can I jump in for a second? That's something you and I have done off and on for the last 10 years is sit on the couch, have a cup of coffee and early in the morning and say, hey, what's your intention for the day? And and that's a good conversation starter for couples, in my opinion. And, we usually tend to pick some of the same ones over and over again, but, of having that same intention. So not only do it for yourself, but you could also do it with your partner.
Yeah. Just brings a different energy into your day instead of just hitting the floor running and checking your phone and off you go to overwhelm and stress, right?
Yep.
Not fun for anybody. And then like do things in your life that make you feel good. Like it sounds simple, but we all kind of just like put that one on the back burner as we get busier and busier, but like do things in your life that make you feel good. For like, I know like when you get to do some of your meetings when you're walking in the forest right by here or out in the ranch, like that really makes you feel good.
Yep.
And like it really feeling good in life, like the better you feel in life, the better life feels, the better relationships feel. So it's like really paying attention to how you feel. Like if you're doing things and you're like, this used to align with me, I actually don't like doing this anymore. Or I used to love this part of business. I am now going to hire this out. So I've grown into this different phase. Like do things in life that make you feel good.
Yeah.
And honor them. Give them space and time.
Love it. Well, gentlemen, you got it right here. Babe, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks
and
for
helping
having me.
out. It's always fun having you on the show. And I know the guys get so much out of it.
Yay, thank you.
Gentlemen, as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. What can you do to raise your value, your sexual market value, or your value within your spouse? And more importantly, your value within yourself. Erin's given you a number of things you can do. And when Erin is saying that women find it so sexy or extremely sexy, guys, take note. I mean, she is a professional that works with women all the time. Women that are just like your wives, right? She works with a lot of the wives of men in the movement, but also her girlfriends, I'm sure, talk to her all the time. I get to hear some of these conversations. So she's got the inside scoop. So if she's saying that, write it down and look at what you're doing. If you're not investing in yourself, it doesn't have to be the powerful man. Do it somewhere. Do something to raise your stock, raise your value. We'll see you next time on the TPM Show.